Welcome to the Vet Nation podcast, where we strive to awaken the warrior within. I am Chaunte, your podcast host for today. Miss Susan Thaxton, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to dive into and discuss the mission of The Mission Continues. But first and foremost, we would like to know who you are, a little bit about your background, and what has made you just on fire for The Mission Continues.
Sure. Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for the opportunity to talk about The Mission Continues and the great work that we do. So first of all, I'm the Chief Programs Officer for The Mission Continues. And so there are what the fun work that I get to do is really all the veteran-facing pieces that we do. So the teams that I work with are the ones who are helping support all of our veterans in over 50 cities across the country that are volunteering and serving in under-resourced communities. And then my teams also are putting on all of our leadership programs that prepare veterans to go out and do that kind of work, as well as our alumni component, so that we have amazing veterans who've been with us for a while and want to stay connected in different ways. So we have an alumni program for them too, so that they can continue with us. How I got here, I've been here with The Mission Continues for just over a year. I am a veteran myself. I'm a Navy veteran, and was back in the Navy a long, long time ago. I did ROTC and did my 4 years out of college as a surface warfare officer in the Navy. And kind of that was it for me. I had a great experience, got a lot of really great leadership training, but was ready to not make it a career and kind of moved on. And that was it for me. And 19 years later, after never having done anything as a veteran, I knew I wanted to make a career change, and had something came up on my LinkedIn for a women's veteran leadership summit with this organization called The Mission Continues. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to expand my network a bit, and ended up participating in that. And through that, got to participate in that program, but also as part of it was doing a service project. And we were at a school with a bunch of veterans doing amazing work, and I was hooked. I loved it. Just having all those veterans come together and make change and have impact. And it was just a fantastic opportunity. And luckily, timing just worked out, and the opportunity came available at The Mission Continues, and here I am. And like I said, I think our mission is just amazing, to get veterans to continue their service, and because the country really needs them right now to continue that service.
Absolutely. You bring up so many amazing points, especially about continuing service. Let's go back a little bit. So, successful transition. When we talk about on Vet Nation, awakening the warrior within, you shared your story of service. And at first it's kind of that quiet, oh, well, I'm a veteran too, and it's way back. And it's almost sometimes that we, especially as women,
absolutely,
we don't give the accolades that we should. We don't boast about it in the same manner. And I think that, Susan, that's huge. One, thank you for your service. And two, the fact that now you can shout it from the rooftops. That's a really big deal. ROTC, the leadership, like you said. How was your transition? Because you said you made the decision and you left. Was it based on family? Was it based on pursuit of, corporate America?
So,
what was your goal?
So just for context, and again, you're absolutely right. Like women especially, women veterans especially, are kind of a lot more quiet about what they've done. And I was a pre-9/11 veteran, so therefore in my own mind, I can cancel out that service even more so and say like, well, it really wasn't that big a deal, So all in all, I had a really good Navy career. I was one of the first. I was in the early group of women going on to combatant ships. So I was in, my first ship. There was a crew of 1,000, and then we would go pick up about 1,500 Marines, and there were 6 women on board. And my second ship, I was the first of 2 of us in a crew of about 275. And I think that while I did really well, it's you never really feel like that's the place you belong, even though you're doing well and you can put it all on. And for me, just knowing that it was the one thing was the ability to look ahead, right? And I saw what my boss was doing, and I saw my boss's boss was doing. And if I could have been, in all honesty, if I could have been the captain of the ship the next day, I probably would have stuck in there. But it was I just looked ahead, and it didn't look like a life that I wanted for myself, frankly. To keep going back to sea over and over again, and not really being able to really fully be who I am, because you're a woman trying to be in that environment, and it's a lot. And I don't think I realized how much that was until I wasn't there anymore. And then realizing, wow, that actually took a lot out of me, and kind of really probably not exactly who I wanted to be at times. But all in all, yes, it was a successful transition. It took me a little while to get my feet on the ground. I went to defense contracting and just totally undersold myself. Be like, what else am I going to do? Who else would ever want to hire me?
Right.
And ended up eventually finding my way to business school. And that kind of really opened things up for me. But in terms of, thinking about my transition, it was hard. And again, I think it's one of those, looking back, you realize I definitely did feel a little lost in there, especially going into defense contracting, because you're still in the world, but you're not in the
Absolutely.
world.
Right.
And you definitely don't feel that you are getting the, respect that that I had when I was there. And so that definitely didn't help. That one foot in, one foot out, was hard too. And I think when, for women too, you kind of don't really know where you are either sometimes, and you get around other women, and you're in other working environments, and you realize that, but this isn't how I've been working all along. And this isn't how I've been interacting with people. And it's a hard, I think it is a hard thing. And again, when you're in it, you're just kind of in it. But once you get some distance looking back, you realize, I was kind of lost, and I was looking for where was I going to go? And, I did, ultimately have a successful transition, and
Absolutely.
things turned out well. And I think it's one of those, it's easy to say, well, it wasn't bad. I wasn't crying myself to sleep in a corner or something, but it did take me a while to figure out kind of who I am, and where did I actually want to end up.
There are just so many impactful stories when you start to unfold, and I'm sure it does take you back immediately, but these are the opportunities, I think, Susan, that allow for your drive today,
Mhm.
that push you, that awaken that warrior when you start to talk about it and you look at what you've overcome. I think these conversations are so relevant and
Mhm.
timely, especially now due to the global pandemic, not just the pandemic, the rampant hatred that we're seeing
Mhm.
across our great nation. Unfortunately, you see a lack of respect these days. You see a lack of the ability to be adaptable, to be resilient, and so how do we awaken those warriors? And I think that it's by saying, you know what, I was one of two women, I was one of six women, I did overcome, I also think the military is so fast,
Mhm.
such a fast pace, that do you have a time where you firmly were able to say, no, you know what? I am a strong woman. I'm going to continue to be a strong woman. I want to be, embody who I am as a woman. And I think that that's sometimes what we don't have time for, because we're moving at such a fast pace.
Yes, absolutely. And I think w- so. We actually have a program specific for women, at the Mission Continues, and so it's our Women Veteran Leadership Program. And this is what we really see with women. So it started as a weekend summit. Like I said, I was a participant in that. And when you think about, I was out of the Navy 19 years before I did my first veteran thing, and it was to go do a women veterans program. And I never would have gone to any other veteran program. But because it was a women veterans, it was less intimidating. I felt like, okay, I can go do that. And that's, I feel like I belong there. I, I've got enough of a story that I can say I did it. And that's what we've just found, is there are so many women who are in that exact same place. And in that need of, in that cohort, there's 70 women, and you look around, and like, when have you ever been with 70 veteran women in one room? It just doesn't happen. And so to have these women come through and help them, and the whole idea of it is to give them the skills, to strengthen the skills. They have the skills, and it's to strengthen the skills and help them understand that they do have them, and how to use them, and so it's public speaking, it's also networking, it's finding your mentor, but then it's also, we use the idea of storytelling, and how do you kind of understand your own story, how did you kind of, how have you been shaped as a leader, as a person, and then what do you want to do with that going forward, so that we talk about, in my own personal story of having to put on your leadership self in the military, and that maybe not exactly be who you really are. And kind of one story that really rung true for me is I was about 3 weeks into being on my first ship, and one of my sailors had a family member pass away, and I was in a hallway with him by myself, or P-way for any Navy people listening, and I said, "I'm really sorry," and I put my hand on his shoulder, and he immediately just threw his arms around me and hugged me and started to cry. And my immediate reaction was, this has to stop, because if somebody sees me, like this is going to be terrible. It's going to be, there I am in a hallway. And in that moment, I instantly realized, this is not, I can't be this person. Like some of my humanity essentially has to go away, because, and that's a terrible thing. And so there's so many stories like that for women, I think that, and so helping them realize, no, that's a wonderful thing. Like embrace that. That's who you are. And that's what is needed to be a really authentic and really effective leader. And so that's what this program really does for them.
I love that. It is so important and I think those are sometimes the conversations that we don't have. And I think, Susan, it's not just the military culture, but it's the civilian culture. As CEO myself, as president of an organization, I'm constantly going through that, to where it's, well, Chaunte, you hug too much. You're too much of a lover. You're too much of and that I embrace the fact of, no, this is who God made me to be. And I don't want to lose that aspect of, you're right, it's humanity. It's, you look out the window and how do you not care to uplift another? And so I think that's absolutely phenomenal, conversations like that. I think back to one of my first deployments, and I was in, 15 years. And I think back to my first deployment, we had to get off the plane early, lowest ranking, had to get off and unload all the bags. And I remember just in my mind thinking, wow, I'm 18 years old. Where are the strong men? They're all just still sitting on the plane. And here we are unloading all these bags. And then you fast forward, all these years later, and I'm in Texas, and I'll never forget just getting my suitcase and throwing it in a vehicle. And this gentleman was like, "Hey, I can get that for you, ma'am." The Texas cowboy. And I thought, no, I'm fine. And it dawned on me very quickly that I needed to change. I need to step back for a moment and allow people to show me kindness as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So many lessons there. We could go on and on. So the mission continues.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is so exciting to me, and I'll tell you why. Back in 2010, to 2012, actually to 2013, I was a director at the YMCA in Schertz, Texas. So Military City, USA. And as a director, I actually I was able to work with the Mission Continues. And so I had 2 fellows that were assigned.
Okay. Yeah.
And just the incredible work, the stories, what I was able to witness by giving them the opportunity to work, to serve, to support, and what it did for them. It was incredible to witness, as I'd sign off on the timesheets, and they were so excited to show me what the accomplishments were and where they were. And you're talking highly educated individuals, all different levels of service within the Mission Continues, which is another thing that I love. But that was my story, and I'll let you continue to share on the different programs. But I just wanted to get that out there of why it resonated. I think we're such a strong, close-knit military community.
Yeah.
And so many incredible organizations. So please elaborate on that.
Yeah. So, and I thank you for sharing that. And I love that you have that experience. And I think that, what it goes back to is the sense of service, right? And so, so for the Mission Continues, what we do is we have veterans continue that mission of service, right? And so we connect veterans to one another so that they can go out and serve together again by am working with under-resourced communities and community partners and under-resourced communities to make meaningful impact. And we know this matters. We know that veterans, they went into the service for a reason, because they wanted to serve, because they wanted to be part of something bigger, because they wanted to have an impact. And when you leave the service, so many people they lose that purpose again. They lose that feeling of being involved in something important that has real meaning. Right. And so we have a place for them. We know that this country has a lot of challenges, and it's had challenges for a long time. And there are communities that they just need some additional resources. They have a vision for what they want to do and what they want to be. And we have veterans who have the skills and the knowledge to go in and be a real asset to those communities and help them come to that vision, right? And to see that through. So we do it in a couple of ways. We have our service platoons that are in over 50 cities across the country. And these are veterans that come together, and they typically focus in a single neighborhood and community, and they go back again and again and again. So it's not just a one-time volunteerism and they're out. But they go in, and the idea is it's an extended partnership over time. They work with a community partner to understand, where are you trying to go and how can we be of assistance? We're not fixing anybody. We're not saving anybody. We are going in to be a partner with them to understand how we can work with them to help them get the resources, the additional resources for them. So so that's the service platoon. And we have we also have our leadership programs, which prepare our veterans to lead in those platoons, because it's really important that we want to be sure they have the skills to be able to do it. So project management and budgeting and, understanding what the technology platforms we use, but also that they have the mindset and the knowledge to go in and do this. Leadership in the military is different from, leadership probably in many places, but particularly to go into a community to be an asset to somebody, you have to have the right mindset. You can't go and say, we're here and we're amazing, so just step out of the way. But it's really having them understand, like, there's so much good going in here already. You guys are already doing things. Help us understand what it is you're doing, where you're trying to go, and how we can support that. And so we, give, so it's more than just the skills, but we also do, cultural competency and asset-based community development, understanding what's the good that's already there and how we tap into that. Like I said, we also have a women's leadership program, and all these programs they're wonderful to develop the veteran themselves and give them extra leadership, their own leadership skills, and then to go and apply it in their service platoons, in these communities to really have impact.
Right. Absolutely. I love that you just said cultural competency. So my doctoral research is all based on acculturation and how the transitioning military, as we are, we call it transitioning, but it's an acculturation. So when you look up the definition of acculturation, it talks about a host dominant culture. Mm-hmm. And so when we go to other countries, we adhere to, we respect their principles. We respect, the customs and the courtesies, and we're trained in the military to do this. And yet we go into the civilian culture, which is the host dominant culture. And we think that we can still carry those same military principles. And we, I believe, as servant leaders, have to be the ones to change. We have to be the ones to grow. We're 7% of the nation. We can't look at the rest and say, no, you meet me where I am. I mean, that's ludicrous. But Susan, you hear this, all the time about, well, we want to support veterans more. We want to support you. Right. And I think the mission continues has that facet, has that answer to, while we're serving, it's called voluntold. And these are great, again, they're great attributes. We are mandated, all of us in the military, to volunteer within our communities. And I constantly am speaking to those in transition or our veterans, get involved. And that involvement opens so many more doors. Right. Which is incredible, which you're a testament to right now.
Yes. And I think, and that's, and we've always known, right, that this service and volunteering, this ability, this opportunity to bring veterans together is so important, especially for veterans. We know that there are mental health struggles with veterans. Absolutely. I think just that whole people's understanding of mental health is becoming more apparent, just, society wide. But COVID certainly has also highlighted the real impact that this isolation is having on veterans. And so our ability to bring veterans together to connect them and what that can do for their mental health, for their sense of purpose, is just, I mean, it's invaluable. And we hear it from them. Like, we know, we've had veterans tell us, like, this saved my life. Like, I
Yeah.
felt alone. I felt like I didn't know what I wanted to do or what I was doing. And by coming to a service project and just having somebody care that you're there and then accomplishing something in the process, it changed everything for them. And all of a sudden it was like, here, these are my people again. I can go be with other people too, but this is different here. Connecting with other veterans is different. And then to serve together alongside them just gives them that whole new sense of purpose.
Oh, it absolutely does. And it's one, I know that service saved my life. And looking at, I was driving, I saw this big billboard. It was at the time called Soldiers Angels. And I was able to go in, I saw what they were doing. And it's incredible how one volunteer opportunity
Mm-hmm.
opened so many doors, and it opened my door to the nonprofit world and what we could do. So the mission continues. So talk to me about during this pandemic,
Yeah.
what has the mission continues been able to do? Are there volunteer opportunities, and what's happened, kind of from the virtual spectrum to
Sure.
boots on the ground?
Sure. So, like every organization, we've had to adapt for sure. And so there's, so first, the kind of shorter answer is our leadership and development programs have all switched to being virtual. And so, normally, our women's program was a 5-month, it was supposed to be a cohort model, and the women were supposed to come together 3 times. We were in DC for the first session, and literally our offices closed the following week in March. So, but they made it through the cohort. They all hung in there. It turned out to actually be a wonderful sense of support for so many women through that they got to be a part of this cohort that to lean on when things were really uncertain. And March seems like forever ago now. And
It
when
does.
you think about
Yes.
when you think about how uncertain it was in March, and now I feel like we've just kind of settled into this is the status quo for now.
Right.
So initially we did stop our platoon operations, and everything was shutting down. So we really couldn't be out serving together in person. We did switch to virtual at that point with with thinking about connection with our veterans and knowing the importance that even more so that this was going to have. Some of our platoons switched to virtual connecting and being able to, whether it was through online dinners and, trivia nights, things like that, to stay connected. And then once we realized this wasn't just a few weeks, like we were going into this, we did switch to virtual service. And, we had like an Earth Day campaign where people could get out on their own and, clean up a park and just kind of share those stories. We also had people grow seedlings at home. A lot of the work we do is in community gardens. And so a lot of our veterans grew seedlings at home to get them ready for when we could get back out there to be able to plant them. And then as things started to open up, we knew we had to get back out there. There were communities that needed us to be out there, and we had veterans who really needed to be out there serving again and being together. And so we've made changes to make sure that we're doing it safely. Majority of our projects are outdoors, that we're able to distance. We have all of our safety gear. We do contactless registration and those sort of things. But we know that the service is even much more important than it even was, both for the veterans to be out there doing it, as well as for the communities who need it. The really big initiative that we took on for the first time is we took on like a national service where we all focused on the same thing. And so it's called Operation Nourish. And so what we were finding is our platoons were going and working with their community partners, and they were finding that regardless of what that community partner's normal focus was, so many of them were switching over to issues around food insecurity. And so it was clear that this was, everybody was reading about the news too. Clearly food insecurity was highlighted as a result of COVID. It's always been there, but
Right.
it just really came to light. And it allowed us to really find a real purpose for our veterans to be engaged at a national problem and be out there trying to be part of the solution. It was like their new mission, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, this is the nation's problem, right? A problem that they could address and actually be a part of the solution. And so we did that in multiple ways. Some platoons found that they were working with community gardens and things, and they were finding there was some like larger farms that couldn't have their own workforce out there anymore and so we had our veterans out harvesting foods so it didn't rot, and then helping make sure
Wow.
that it got delivered to where it needed to be. We've been back at maintaining community gardens, building out community gardens in communities where those gardens are really critical. They actually are. It's not a nice to have. It's a food source for the community.
Absolutely.
And so us having our veterans out there building and maintaining those gardens. And then food distribution. We have partnered with so many of our community partners who have switched to food distribution, both helping them collect as well as being out there serving in those long lines that we've all seen on the news, distributing food. And it's really been amazing. We've had over 135 service opportunities through this, through the summer and into the early fall. We've had over 1,000 veterans engage with us, and many of them are coming back again and again and again. And what we've seen is it's really lit a lot of them up where they were feeling, alone or isolated, or just kind of like, how can I do anything, to having a purpose and getting out there and being a part of what's really important and relevant for the country.
Absolutely. And, you look at volunteer opportunities, they're free.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
it's something that you can do. That I hear so many that have lost their jobs, have been furloughed, and we understand that the financial struggle is real. I think all of us can attest to going through this pandemic and feeling that weight of the world on our shoulders. And so volunteering and getting out and supporting others, serving others, allows you to feel that mission again, which is again, it's our driving force that awakens the warrior within. And so these opportunities might not provide immediate funding for someone who is looking to pay their bills, but it affords them the opportunity to keep that mission focused, to keep that drive.
Absolutely.
I love that. Is there, when you think about, because I know there's so much that the Mission Continues is doing, when you think about the Mission Continues on a whole, what are some final words that you would just like to get out there to the public? And I like to start with your story, Susan, because I think what's going to make someone listen to these podcasts, what's going to make someone interested in the mission and the focus and the drive. And it started with your story, that awakening the warrior and that fire. So what continues to drive you personally? And then what are the final words for the Mission Continues?
Yeah. So what continues to drive me personally, with, and I think being at the Mission Continues during this time has really helped drive me personally. Knowing that we are directly contributing to being part of a solution in a time when it just feels like there aren't enough solutions.
Right.
And the country is so divided on so many issues, but we can serve together. Regardless of how you feel about anything else, we can come together and serve and remember what brought us together in the first place and keep coming back to it. And I think people need that right now. And I know it is needed right now too. And so that really keeps me going at the Mission Continues, is knowing what our veterans are out there doing, knowing that they want to do this, that it is good. It feeds their soul to do this, and the country needs them to do this too. And that's what really keeps me going. And it's so relevant for right now. We are addressing food insecurity, and so many of the communities that we have been working in for a long time are the same communities right now that this summer have been highlighted about great injustices that are going on and systemic inequality that's been going on. And we have been in those communities over time and have been, have been with those communities, and we will continue to be with those communities. And so it all just feels very relevant as well. Like this isn't, we're not, that veterans can come out and be like, I am really doing something that matters in all of this. And I think going back to kind of final words and even thinking of my own story, that one thing I love about the Mission Continues, it's for any veteran wherever they are in that transition, right? It's for the veteran who immediately is leaving and wants to find that connection right away back into their military days and feel it all again, then come join us. If it's someone like me who's 19 years removed from it, come on back, because I will tell you from personal experience, it is so great because it's a shared history that you just don't have with other people. And so wherever you are in your transition, even though you think you might even be well beyond it, you can come be part of the Mission Continues, and it will feed your soul. It will give you such a sense of doing great things at a time when we all really need to feel like there are good things to be done.
Beautifully said, Susan. Absolutely beautifully said. I was speaking about diversity and inclusion the other day, and we hear that it starts with acceptance, and we kind of hear a lot of these words. And I said, it starts in the home. It starts in our homes. It starts with how we're raised, how we choose to treat others, how we are treating those within the, again, the walls of our own home. How am I raising my children? And so I think that community service aspect and looking at what the Mission Continues has been able to do nationwide, and when we all see the pictures, especially when you go to the website and looking at the diversity, the inclusion, the acceptance, ultimately the love and respect. And that is what our military community represents. That's the bigger picture. So I love that. How can people get a hold of you, Susan?
So the best way is through our website. It is missioncontinues.org. And that has all of our information there about all of our programs, service opportunities, you can go search on the map and figure out where a service platoon is near you if you want to come check out our events and come join us, as well as information about our leadership programs too. So that is absolutely the best way to check us out.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, Susan, for joining us today at Vet Nation Podcast. We strive to awaken the warrior within, and I believe everyone listening could hear the warrior within you today. They could hear the passion and the excitement. So please go and check out the Mission Continues, missioncontinues.org. Thank you.
Thank you.